the complex web of human relationships, we often encounter individuals who seem to embody darkness, manipulation, or harm in subtle and sometimes overt ways. These people, whom we may refer to as evil, are not necessarily monstrous, nor do they always wear signs of malevolent. They often appear as ordinary beings, moving through life with the same desires and aspirations as anyone else, but their actions, whether conscious or unconscious, leave behind a trail of suffering, deceit, and chaos. At the core of human relationships lies an inherent need for connection, trust, and understanding. These values are the glue that binds us together, allowing for cooperation, love, and community. However, an evil person understands the dynamics of human interaction and the power of division. Rather than cultivating unity, they intentionally drive wedges between people, sowing suspicion and distrust where harmony once existed. This is done subtly, often without anyone realizing what is happening until it's too late. The victim becomes caught in a web of emotional manipulation, unable to distinguish between truth and lies. The true intent behind the actions of such a person is often veiled, cloaked in the language of concern, self-righteousness, or even love. They use these facades to hide their real aim, to create division for their personal gain. The key method employed is the manipulation of information by selectively sharing details or distorting facts. The individual causes misunderstandings. These misunderstandings, though initially small, can grow into major conflicts if left unchecked. The evil person thrives on this process, quietly orchestrating rifts, knowing full well that each fragmented relationship brings them closer to achieving their goal of control. They are careful to ensure that the seeds of discord are planted in a way that makes it difficult to trace the source of the division. They will ensure that no one can easily pinpoint the exact moment when trust was broken or when the harmony was disrupted. In more intimate settings, such as friendships or families, this tactic can be particularly devastating. In these spaces, the bonds of love and loyalty are often assumed to be impenetrable. When division is introduced into these spaces, it hits deeply, causing emotional harm that lingers far beyond the moment. The evil person often sets their sights on the weakest link in a group, the one most vulnerable to manipulation. This could be someone who is unsure of themselves, someone who has recently experienced a personal loss, or someone who desires approval from others. They exploit this vulnerability, using it to fracture the group. They plant seeds of doubt, asking questions like, "Do you really think they care about you?" Or "Have you noticed how they've been acting lately?" They feed on the insecurities of others, amplifying them until a chasm forms where a once solid relationship existed. It's important to recognize that the evil person does not need to be overt in their actions to cause harm. Often their influence is more insidious. They are masters of the quiet manipulation, the gentle suggestion, the whispered half-truth. They don't need to be loud or brash to cause damage. Their subtlety is their power. With each carefully placed word, they create a ripple effect, pushing people into conflict. Before long, even the most unassuming interactions are tinged with suspicion, as if everyone is walking on eggshells, unsure of who they can trust. The fallout of such division is profound. Relationships begin to deteriorate, not because of an inherent flaw in the individuals involved, but because of the poison that has been introduced into their dynamic. Friendships turn cold, family bonds are strained, and communities begin to fragment. The evil person steps back, watching the chaos unfold. They often remain at the periphery, never directly involved in the conflict. They always present as the cause of it, and their ability to remain hidden in plain sight is one of their greatest strengths. They understand that by keeping themselves out of the center of attention, they can continue to manipulate from the shadows, unseen and unaccountable. What makes this tactic particularly dangerous is its long-term effect. Division doesn't resolve easily. Once trust is broken and suspicion is allowed to flourish, it is incredibly difficult to rebuild what has been torn down. Even after the evil person has moved on to another group or relationship, the remnants of their influence remain. The once strong ties between individuals become fragile and easily broken, even by the slightest provocation. What began as a small crack becomes a chasm that no one can cross without confronting the pain of the past. The evil person has left behind a legacy of mistrust and discord, and the damage continues to echo long after their departure. The most insidious part of all of this is that the evil person rarely, if ever, acknowledges the harm they've caused. In fact, they may even position themselves as the victim, claiming that they were simply misunderstood, or that they were trying to protect others from harm. They never take responsibility for their actions. In their eyes, they are justified in causing division because it serves their greater goal, whether it's power, control, or personal gain. The resulting conflicts, broken relationships, and fractured communities are merely collateral damage in the pursuit of their self-interest. Empathy and compassion are the fundamental pillars of human connection, essential for building trust, understanding, and cooperation. These qualities allow individuals to reach beyond their own limited perspective and truly feel the pain, joy, and experiences of others. When empathy is present, there is a recognition of our shared humanity, a mutual respect that acknowledges the dignity of every person. However, when dealing with an evil person, these qualities are conspicuously absent. Instead, there is a coldness, a lack of regard for the feelings and well-being of others that permeates their interactions. This absence of empathy is one of the clearest indicators that you are in the presence of someone whose intentions may be harmful, even if their actions are not immediately obvious. An evil person may appear charming or even charismatic on the surface, but beneath this facade lies a profound disconnect from the emotional experiences of those around them. They do not engage with others on a deeper level of understanding. Instead, they see people as tools, objects, or obstacles to be used in the pursuit of their own desire. They may feign interest in others or mimic the gestures of concern, but these actions are hollow, driven by a need to manipulate or control, rather than a genuine desire to help or support. To them, others are not individuals with their own thoughts and feelings. They are simply means to an end. In interactions with an evil person, you will notice that they rarely express genuine concern for others' pain or suffering. If someone opens up to them about a personal struggle, the response may be indifferent, dismissive, or even judgmental. They may offer surface-level advice or solutions, but they do not take the time to truly understand the emotions behind the words. It is as if the other person's emotions are foreign to them, something to be bypassed or ignored in favor of moving the conversation to a more self-serving place. They may even make comments that belittle or trivialize the struggles of others, further distancing themselves from any real connection. Where there should be a compassionate ear, there is nothing but cold detachment. One of the most striking characteristics of an evil person's lack of empathy is their ability to manipulate others without remorse. They are often skilled at reading people, identifying their vulnerabilities, and exploiting them for personal gain. This manipulation is not always overt or dramatic. It can be subtle, wrapped in seemingly harmless words or actions. They may offer help or support when it is convenient for them, only to withdraw it when they no longer find it useful. They create emotional dependencies, knowing full well that they can use someone's need for validation or affection to their advantage. And when those they manipulate begin to show signs of distress or pain, their response is rarely to offer comfort or care. Instead, they may grow impatient, dismissive, or even angry, as if the other person's suffering is an inconvenience or a weakness. This lack of empathy also extends to how they view the needs and feelings of those around them. They may operate on the belief that others should cater to their desires and meet their needs, without ever considering the reciprocal nature of human relationships. The concept of mutual care and respect is foreign to them. When someone tries to express their own needs, desires, or frustrations, the evil person may respond with indifference or even hostility to them. Others are not partners in a shared human experience, but tools for achieving their own ends. The idea that someone else might be hurting, struggling, or in need of support is simply irrelevant. Furthermore, the absence of empathy often leads to a disregard for the boundaries and well-being of others. An evil person may overstep personal limits, pushing others into uncomfortable or even harmful situations without consideration for the emotional or physical toll it takes. They have no qualms about taking advantage of someone's trust, kindness, or goodwill. In fact, they may view these traits as weaknesses to be exploited. There is no hesitation when it comes to using people for their own advantage, as their inability to understand the impact of their actions on others allows them to move forward without guilt or hesitation. It is important to recognize that this lack of empathy is not the result of ignorance or a temporary lapse in judgment. It is a deep-seated, ingrained characteristic that colors every interaction the evil person has. They are not simply unaware of the feelings of others. They actively disregard them. Where there is opportunity for connection, they create distance. Where there is a chance to build trust, they destroy it. Their world is one of self-interest, where the emotions and experiences of others are irrelevant, and their only concern is how they can use those around them to satisfy their own needs. This lack of empathy has far-reaching consequences, both for the evil person and for those they come into contact with. For the individual on the receiving end of their behavior, it can be deeply isolating. When you are constantly surrounded by someone who cannot or will not understand your feelings, it becomes difficult to maintain a sense of self-worth or connection. The emotional toll can be profound, leaving you feeling empty, invalidated, and alone. For the evil person, however, this detachment from others may serve to maintain their sense of power and control. By denying others the opportunity to express their emotions or connect on a deeper level, they ensure that they remain the center of attention, the only source of validation or authority in the relationship. It is a dynamic of control, perpetuated by the absence of empathy. One of the most distinguishing traits of an evil person is their manipulation of the truth. Truth, after all, is the foundation upon which trust, relationships, and society itself are built. Without truth, there can be no genuine connection or understanding. When we deal with others, we rely on shared facts and honesty to navigate our interaction. However, for an evil person, truth is not an immutable principle. It is a malleable tool, one that can be twisted, distorted, and bent to suit their desires. The manipulation of truth begins with subtlety. An evil person doesn't always lie outright. Instead, they distort the narrative, presenting only fragments of the truth, while omitting critical details that would change the interpretation of a situation. They may offer half-truths, speak in ambiguities, or frame facts in a way that shifts their meaning. In doing so, they create a version of reality that is tailored to their needs, one that serves to deceive others and protect their interests. This manipulation can be so skillful that those around them may never even realize they are being misled. The victim may find themselves questioning their own perceptions, unsure of what is true and what is false. The evil person might also plant seeds of doubt in the minds of others. They know that people are often uncertain and easily influenced, particularly when emotions are involved. By casting doubt on someone's character, intentions, or reliability, they can shift the focus away from their own actions. They might question the credibility of a person who is telling the truth, suggesting that their story is inconsistent or fabricated. By subtly attacking the messenger, they discredit the message and make it harder for others to trust what they are hearing. In this way, the evil person clouds the truth, making it difficult for anyone to see the situation clearly. Another common tactic is the use of omission. An evil person may intentionally leave out key pieces of information that would contribute to the way a situation is perceived. This omission is not always a blatant lie, but rather a deliberate decision to withhold important facts. By keeping certain details hidden, they can control the narrative and present a version of events that benefits them. This selective storytelling allows them to manipulate the emotions of others and bend their perception of reality in the direction they desire. In some cases, the evil person may use gaslighting, a psychological manipulation designed to make the victim question their own sanity or perception of reality. Gaslighting is particularly insidious because it causes the victim to doubt their own experiences, memories, and feelings. The evil person may deny something they have said or done, even when the victim has clear evidence to the contrary. They might insist that the victim is overreacting, imagining things, or being irrational. Over time, this can erode the victim's self-consciousness and trust in their own judgment. The victim becomes increasingly dependent on the manipulator's version of the truth, unable to trust their own perceptions. The evil person creates a reality in which they hold all the power, and the truth becomes whatever they say it is. The manipulation of truth is not always about directly lying or distorting facts. Sometimes it involves creating a false narrative that others come to believe as truth. The evil person might tell a story that paints them as the victim, even when they are the one causing harm. By portraying themselves in a sympathetic light, they can garner support or sympathy, diverting attention from their own wrongdoing. They might exaggerate their hardships or fabricate circumstances to justify their behavior. The goal is to shift the focus away from their actions and make others feel sorry for them, even when they are the ones responsible for the damage. Moreover, the evil person may use the manipulation of truth to create a sense of confusion and chaos in their environment. By constantly shifting the facts, changing their story, and offering conflicting accounts, they keep others off balance. This creates an atmosphere of uncertainty where no one knows what to believe, and no one can trust their own understanding of the situation. The evil person thrives in this environment because it allows them to operate with impunity. And the more confusion they create, the more difficult it becomes for others to see the truth and hold them accountable for their actions. What makes the manipulation of truth particularly dangerous is its long-loitering effect. Once an evil person has successfully manipulated the truth, it can be difficult to undo the damage. The lies and distortions linger in the minds of those affected, shaping their perceptions and influencing their decisions. Relationships are strained and trust is broken. And the victim may find it challenging to rebuild their understanding of what is true, especially if they have been gaslit or deceived over a prolonged period. Even when the truth eventually comes to light, the damage done may not be easily repaired. The evil person knows this, and they rely on the fact that once they have twisted the truth in their favor, it is often too late for anyone to reclaim the clarity they once had. An evil person doesn't always manifest through overt violence or grand gestures of malice. Sometimes their most insidious actions are far more subtle, creeping into the lives of others like a slow poison. One of the most profound and destructive tactics used by an evil person is their ability to drain the energy and spirit of those around them. This depletion occurs not through direct attack or force, but through constant emotional manipulation and negativity that wears down the victim over time. The process is slow and almost imperceptible at first, but over time the toll becomes unbearable, leaving the individual exhausted, demoralized, and emotionally depleted. The first signs of this drain are often small, nearly unnoticeable. An evil person may seem charming or engaging in the beginning, their presence drawing people in with a magnetic allure. However, as time goes on, there is a growing sense of unease. It may begin with small comments, subtle criticisms, or manipulative behaviors that undermine self-confidence. At first, these actions may seem like simple misunderstandings or unintentional remarks, but they are in fact carefully placed seeds meant to erode the victim's sense of self-worth. The victim might start to second-guess their decisions, their abilities, or even their perception of reality. These subtle emotional attacks accumulate, draining the victim's energy without them realizing the extent of the harm being done. Yet as the evil person continues their behavior, the emotional toll becomes more apparent. The victim starts to feel mentally and physically exhausted, as though they are carrying a heavy weight that never seems to lift. Their thoughts become consumed with anxiety, doubt, and fear. They may find it difficult to focus on anything other than the toxic interactions with the person draining them. The evil person's presence, once charismatic, now feels suffocating, as if every conversation, every interaction takes more energy than it gives. The victim becomes emotionally depleted, no longer able to muster the strength or enthusiasm they once had for things that once brought them joy. Over time, this emotional depletion leads to a sense of detachment from others and from life itself, as the individual is slowly worn down by the constant negativity and manipulation. What makes this emotional drain so particularly destructive is its stealthiness. Unlike an overt confrontation or attack, it doesn't happen all at once. Instead, it's like a slow erosion of the soul, where the victim doesn't realize how much energy has been siphoned away until they find themselves completely drained. The evil person is often careful to present themselves as supportive or helpful. Even as they undermine and manipulate, they may offer compliments that are laced with backhanded criticism or promises of help that come with strings attached. They create an illusion of care and concern while secretly draining the individual of their vitality. This deceptive behavior leaves the victim feeling conflicted, unsure of whether the person's intentions are genuine or harmful. The uncertainty only adds to the exhaustion, as the victim is constantly on edge, trying to decipher the true nature of the relationship. As the emotional drain deepens, the evil person might further manipulate the victim by playing on their guilt or sense of responsibility. They make the victim feel as though they are the source of the problem, that they are the ones who need to change or do more to make the relationship work. This tactic can create a sense of obligation, where the victim feels trapped, as if they must constantly give more of themselves to please the evil person, even though doing so only leads to further depletion. The victim might begin to feel isolated, cut off from their support system, and unable to ask for help. They may even start to believe that they are the problem, not realizing that they are being manipulated into self-doubt and emotional exhaustion. The evil person, knowing this dynamic, exploits it for their own gain. They draw the victim in with small gestures of kindness or affection, only to withdraw those same gestures when the victim becomes emotionally dependent. This cycle of emotional highs and lows, where the victim is made to feel loved and supported one moment and abandoned or criticized the next, is what makes this draining process so devastating. The victim is left in a constant state of emotional turmoil, never knowing where they stand. The evil person knows that as long as they can keep the victim emotionally off balance, they can maintain control over them, drawing them further into a state of depletion. Over time, this constant emotional drain has a significant impact on the victim's mental and physical health. The stress of navigating such a toxic relationship takes its toll, manifesting in symptoms such as anxiety, depression, insomnia, or physical fatigue. The individual becomes trapped in a cycle of emotional exhaustion, unable to escape the draining influence of the evil person. Even when they try to distance themselves, they may feel a sense of guilt or responsibility, as though they are abandoning someone in need. The evil person's manipulations make it difficult for the victim to break free, as they continue to exploit the victim's sense of empathy and obligation. Ultimately, the drain on the victim's spirit and energy leaves them in a state of profound emotional exhaustion, where they feel as though they no longer have the strength to continue. They may begin to withdraw from other relationships, isolating themselves further, as they feel incapable of giving anything more. The joy and vitality they once had are replaced by a sense of emptiness, a void that the evil person continues to exploit. And as the victim is drained of their energy, the evil person remains ever present, feeding off their weakened state, ensuring that the cycle of emotional depletion continues. This kind of manipulation can leave deep scars, and the recovery process often requires significant time, self-reflection, and support from others to heal from the wounds left behind. The pursuit of power is a driving force for many individuals, but for an evil person, it is an obsession, a need that overshadows everything else. This desire for power is not rooted in a genuine desire for growth, improvement, or the well-being of others. Rather, it comes from a place of control. Control over people, situations, and environments. An evil person sees others not as equals, but as tools to be used in the attainment of their own goals. A tool, this drive for power is often cloaked in a guise of ambition or leadership, but the underlying motive is one of manipulation and dominance. An evil person's quest for power is most evident in the way they treat others. They may present themselves as kind, competent, or even benevolent, but underneath the surface lies a constant desire to control every aspect of the situation. They know that in order to maintain their power, they must keep others in a position of submission. This often manifests as an ongoing pattern of undermining others, isolating them, and making them feel powerless. In relationships, this could look like constant criticism or sabotage, leaving the other person feeling inadequate or dependent. In a professional setting, it might involve taking credit for someone else's work, or creating a toxic environment where others feel constantly threatened or insecure. The evil person thrives on these dynamics, as they know that when others are weak, they can easily maintain control. They're experts in creating dependency. Through manipulation and subtle tactics, they make others believe they cannot function without them. Whether it's in a personal relationship, a workplace, or a social group, the evil person ensures that they are seen as indispensable. They might feed off the admiration of others, convincing people that their success or survival hinges on their approval or guidance. And when others become reliant on them, the evil person can easily manipulate their decisions, thoughts, and actions. This control is not always blatant or aggressive. Sometimes it is soft and insidious, wrapped in the language of concern, advice, or care. The evil person creates a false sense of dependency, making others feel as though they are incapable of thriving or making decisions without their intervention. Their need for power also leads them to constantly seek out vulnerabilities in others. They watch closely, waiting for moments of weakness or insecurity that they can exploit. These vulnerabilities are not weaknesses in themselves. They are simply human frailties that everyone experiences at some point. However, The evil person uses these moments to further their control. If someone is going through a tough time, whether it's a personal loss, a professional setback, or emotional turmoil, the evil person will swoop in, offering what appears to be support, but in reality, they are subtly steering the individual toward a place where they become dependent on them. By offering assistance or solace in a time of need, the evil person creates a false bond, a connection built on manipulation rather than genuine care. They make the person feel as though they owe them something, and in doing so, they tighten their grip on their target. Moreover, an evil person's need for power often manifests in their willingness to sacrifice others to maintain their position. They view people as disposable. Once they have drained all they can from someone, they will move on to the next person, leaving behind a trail of hurt and damaged relationships. This ruthlessness is part of the evil person's strategy to climb the ladder of power. They have no qualms about using others to further their own agenda, even if it means causing harm. They understand that in order to achieve their ultimate goal, others must be left behind, discarded, when they are no longer useful. The evil person may also engage in power plays that destabilize groups or communities, creating divisions that allow them to ascend in the chaos. They thrive on conflict, using it as a way to further their control. By creating division and stirring discord, they can isolate individuals from one another, making it easier to manipulate and control each person individually. They may use tactics such as spreading rumors, sowing distrust, or even encouraging competition or rivalry. In doing so, they weaken the unity of the group, making it easier for the evil person to step into a position of authority or control. This constant undermining of others is part of their strategy to maintain dominance, as it keeps everyone in a state of fear and uncertainty, always looking over their shoulder for the next attack or betrayal. An evil person's pursuit of power is also marked by their inability to share it. They are not interested in collaboration or partnership because they cannot bear to relinquish control. Even when they work within a group or a team, they do so with the intention of asserting their dominance. They may tolerate others having some measure of power or success, but they will not allow anyone to surpass them. They might sabotage others' efforts, diminish their contributions, or take credit for their achievements. The idea of sharing power or allowing others to thrive independently is anathema to them. Power to an evil person is zero-sum. If someone else gains, they lose. Therefore, they will do whatever it takes to maintain the upper hand, even if it means resorting to deceit, manipulation, or cruelty. This obsessive need for power is not just about control for its own sake, but about maintaining a sense of superiority. The evil person must constantly assert their dominance over others to reassure themselves of their worth. They cannot bear the idea of being seen as weak or insignificant. Power to them is a means of validating their existence, and without it, they feel empty and exposed. This insatiable need for control, combined with their ability to manipulate, exploit, and discard others, makes them dangerous in any environment. An evil person often thrives on conflict and chaos, deliberately creating turmoil in the lives of those around them. Unlike individuals who may avoid confrontation or work towards resolution, an evil person has an uncanny ability to stir up discord and fuel unrest. Their motives for doing so are not about finding solutions, but about gaining power, control, or simply satisfying their own desires for disruption. They may not always appear overtly aggressive, but their actions have a way of destabilizing environments, relationships, and communities, leaving a wake of confusion, tension, and broken connections. One of the most significant ways an evil person fosters conflict is by playing on people's emotions. They know that humans are deeply influenced by their emotional responses. Fear, anger, jealousy, insecurity, and pride are powerful motivators. They know exactly which buttons to press to provoke strong reactions from others. This manipulation of emotions is often subtle but highly effective. The evil person might tell half-truths or plant seeds of doubt in someone's mind, suggesting that their friends, family, or colleagues are against them. They might amplify existing insecurities or whisper rumors that sow distrust and division. This emotional manipulation makes others question their relationships and alliances, turning once solid connections into sources of uncertainty and conflict. In relationships, this pattern of behavior becomes particularly toxic. The evil person might create a sense of division by making one person feel as though they are constantly under attack or unsupported. They may tell lies or twist facts to turn people against each other, using the resulting discord to manipulate the situation to their advantage. This strategy might involve triangulation, where the evil person pits two people against each other, subtly encouraging them to compete for approval or to argue with each other. By turning friends, family members, or colleagues into rivals, they can control the flow of power in the relationship, ensuring that they remain the focal point of attention and influence. This manipulation is often invisible at first, leaving the victim unaware of the subtle shifts occurring within their circle. Over time, however, the cumulative effect of this chaos becomes undeniable. The evil person also tends to create a us versus them mentality, cultivating division between groups or individuals. This is particularly evident in social, professional, or political settings, where they deliberately exploit differences to create an atmosphere of conflict, whether through fostering competition, emphasizing ideological divides, or exaggerating misunderstandings. They can cause groups to fracture and become antagonistic toward each other. In the workplace, for instance, they may create factions, causing co-workers to compete for favor, undermining team efforts, or fueling petty rivalries. This environment of tension and mistrust makes it difficult for anyone to focus on common goals or work cohesively. The evil person thrives in these conditions, as the resulting conflict allows them to exert influence over individuals and groups, creating opportunities to manipulate or control others while others are distracted by the infighting. Then, moreover, an evil person often seeks out and exploits weaknesses in others, especially those who are emotionally vulnerable or struggling. This vulnerability is like a crack in a dam that the evil person eagerly exploits, pushing others to act out of fear, anger, or desperation. If someone is already feeling stressed, anxious, or insecure, the evil person might push them further, knowing that they are more likely to react emotionally and irrationally. This makes it easier to manipulate the situation, either by causing someone to act out of character or by provoking a disproportionate response that can be used to discredit them. They may create situations that trigger emotional breakdowns, further destabilizing the person and those around them. Through these actions, the evil person creates a cycle of heightened tension that keeps everyone on edge and easily manipulated. Another way in which an evil person creates conflict is by exploiting others' fears and vulnerabilities for their own amusement or satisfaction. They understand that fear can be an incredibly effective motivator, and they might deliberately instill a sense of dread in others, whether it's the fear of being exposed, rejected, or humiliated. They play on these anxieties to control the actions of those around them. They may present themselves as the only person capable of alleviating the fear or solving the problem, reinforcing their role as the authority figure in the situation. In doing so, they ensure that others remain dependent on them, as they become the perceived solution to the crisis they themselves help to create. Furthermore, an evil person may also create conflict by isolating individuals from their support networks. By sowing discord and mistrust, they create a situation where the victim feels they can no longer turn to their friends, family, or colleagues for support. This isolation increases the victim's reliance on the evil person, making it more difficult to break free from their influence. The evil person understands that when someone feels alone and unsupported, they are more vulnerable to manipulation, and more likely to seek validation and guidance from the person who has created the conflict in the first place. The destabilization caused by the evil person can have far-reaching effects, not just on the individual, but on the entire group dynamic. In relationships, it leads to mistrust, emotional distance, and confusion. In organizations or communities, it can destroy collaboration, creativity, and morale. The constant state of conflict makes it difficult for people to focus on their goals or maintain healthy relationships. The evil person, however, thrives in this environment of chaos, as it allows them to remain at the center of attention and control the flow of information and power. As long as the conflict continues, they are able to exert influence, making it difficult for others to see the truth or act with clarity.